Every great empire begins with a story. Some start in royal palaces, others in shining towers. But this one, it began in the trunk of a car. A young man selling running shoes out of his old Plymouth, driving from track meet to track meet, hoping someone, anyone, would buy a pair. No billion-dollar dreams, no marketing team, no global strategy. Just passion, grit, and belief. That man was Phil Knight, and the company he built became Nike, the world's most powerful sports brand. Today, Nike is worth billions. Its logo, the Swoosh, is recognized in every corner of the planet. From athletes to artists, from local gyms to global stadiums, Nike is everywhere. But how did this happen? How did one small idea turn into a global empire that changed the way the world thinks about sports, business, and culture? That's the story we're about to explore. The rise of Nike, from a car trunk to global domination. And before we begin this incredible journey, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves stories about innovation, determination, and the people who changed the world. Because Nike's story isn't just about sneakers, it's about believing in impossible dreams. Let's rewind the clock to where it all began. The year was 1962. Phil Knight was a 24-year-old graduate student from Oregon. He loved running. He wasn't the fastest or strongest, but he had an obsession with the sport. While studying at Stanford, he wrote a paper that would later become his destiny. In it, he argued that Japanese running shoes could challenge Germany's sports shoe giants like Adidas and Puma if marketed correctly in the United States. Back then, the sports shoe industry was dominated by those two German brothers, Adolf and Rudolf Dassler, founders of Adidas and Puma. Phil believed there was room for a new competitor, one that could deliver high-quality shoes at lower prices. After graduation, he decided to make that dream real. So he flew to Japan, with almost no money, no business connections, and no experience. Just an idea. In Japan, he visited a shoe company called Onitsuka Tiger, known today as Asics. He convinced them that he represented a new American distributor called Blue Ribbon Sports. It wasn't exactly true. The company didn't exist yet. But the Japanese executives liked his enthusiasm. They agreed to let him sell their shoes in the US. And just like that, Blue Ribbon Sports was born, not from a boardroom but from a conversation across the Pacific. Phil Knight returned home and teamed up with his old running coach, Bill Bowerman, from the University of Oregon. Bowerman wasn't just a coach, he was an inventor. He was obsessed with finding ways to make athletes faster, lighter, and more efficient. Together, they began selling the Japanese shoes out of Phil's car trunk at local track meets. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked. Runners loved the new shoes. They were lighter, cheaper, and better designed than most competitors. Slowly, word began to spread. Phil's parents' house became his first warehouse. His kitchen table became his office, and every dollar he earned went straight back into buying more inventory. By 1965, sales had reached about $20,000. Not huge, but enough to prove something real was happening. Blue Ribbon Sports started opening small stores and hiring a few employees. But behind the scenes, tensions were growing. The partnership with Onitsuka Tiger was becoming strained. Phil wanted more control, but the Japanese company was looking for other distributors. Sensing danger, Knight and Bowerman decided it was time to create their own brand. And that's when Nike was born. In 1971, Blue Ribbon Sports introduced its own line of shoes, under a new name, Nike. The name came from the Greek goddess of victory, Nike, pronounced Nike. It was suggested by one of their first employees, Jeff Johnson, after a dream he had about the goddess. For the logo, Knight turned to a local graphic design student, Carolyn Davidson, who created the now iconic Swoosh. She was paid just $35 for it, a simple curved line meant to represent movement and speed. At first, Phil Knight wasn't even sure he liked it. He famously said, "I don't love it, but it'll grow on me." And it did, faster than anyone could have imagined. In 1972, Nike officially launched during the US Olympic trials in Eugene, Oregon. Their shoes featured a special sole design invented by Bowerman, a pattern inspired by his wife's waffle iron. One morning, he poured rubber into a waffle maker, trying to create a better grip for runners. It worked. the Nike Waffle trainer became one of the most famous running shoes in history. That moment, a homemade experiment in a kitchen, marked the beginning of Nike's innovation legacy. By the mid-1970s, Nike was on the rise. Its shoes weren't just functional, they were cool. They represented performance, youth, and rebellion, a new kind of energy that traditional brands didn't have. But Nike's real breakthrough came in the 1980s. In 1984, Nike signed a young basketball player named Michael Jordan. At the time, Jordan was just entering the NBA. Other companies weren't sure about him. He was talented but unproven. Nike took the risk. They offered him a $500,000 a year deal and his own line of shoes, the Air Jordan. That decision changed everything. The Air Jordan wasn't just a shoe. It was a cultural explosion. When the NBA banned the shoe for violating uniform rules, Nike turned it into genius marketing. They ran ads saying, "The NBA can't stop you from wearing them." Every kid wanted a pair. Sales skyrocketed. In the first year alone, Air Jordans brought in over $100 million. Nike had discovered something revolutionary: the power of storytelling. They weren't just selling shoes, they were selling dreams, rebellion, and identity. Wearing Nike meant believing in something bigger. Then came 1988, the year Nike launched its most famous slogan, "Just do it." The phrase was short, powerful, and timeless. It spoke to everyone: athletes, dreamers, and ordinary people pushing themselves to achieve something. The campaign made Nike unstoppable. It wasn't about sports anymore. It was about life. During the late 1980s and 1990s, Nike expanded globally. They built partnerships with icons like Tiger Woods, Serena Williams, and Cristiano Ronaldo. Each athlete represented not just excellence, but emotion. Nike made them heroes, and by extension made customers feel like heroes too. The swoosh became more than a logo, it became a movement. By the 2000s, Nike had become a billion-dollar empire. Its revenue crossed tens of billions annually. Its products ranged from shoes and clothes to technology and digital fitness. But beneath the success, Nike also faced challenges: criticism over labor practices, competition from Adidas and new brands, and the struggle to stay relevant in a fast-changing market. And yet, Nike adapted. When the internet changed shopping habits, Nike built digital platforms. When social media rose, Nike created powerful storytelling campaigns. When athletes spoke out about social issues, Nike stood by them, even when it was controversial. The brand learned something crucial. In the modern world, people don't just buy products, they buy purpose. And Nike's purpose became clear: to inspire every athlete in the world. And as Bill Bowerman once said, "If you have a body, you are an athlete." That simple idea made Nike's empire bigger than sports. It became a philosophy about courage, ambition, and movement. So, how did Nike go from a car trunk to global domination? By believing in risk, in people, and in storytelling. By understanding that innovation isn't just about better products, it's about bigger meaning. Nike's rise shows how vision, persistence, and adaptability can build not just a brand, but a legacy. But this story isn't over. In the next part, we'll explore the deeper layers: how Nike shaped culture, built global dominance through marketing, faced controversy, and evolved into one of the most influential brands in history. If you found this story inspiring, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel if you love learning how ideas turn into empires. Because the story of Nike isn't just history, it's a blueprint for anyone who dreams of turning passion into power.